Hello, good afternoon to all of you who listen to us from Europe. Good morning if you do it from the other side of the Atlantic. I am Philippe Lardier, CEO of Open Expo Europe and collaborator in Beyond Innovation podcast. Today we receive José ASTRAIN and he will talk about tools to help open source communities toward development innovation. How are you, José?
Hello, Philippe. I am fine. Hello to everyone, and I hope you join us and you enjoy this little webinar.
And just to remember, you can ask question to Jose directly through Telegram or through our social networks on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or on our YouTube chat in this webinar right now. So you can do it whenever you want during the webinar, and I will ask the questions to Jose. So thank you to all of you to be here today with us, and you can go on with your presentation, Jose.
Thank you, Philippe. So I will start to explain about how this idea of the webinar was created. Since a couple of years back, when I was in school, we usually had different types of groups, and those groups were involved in different types of technologies or did different things. And one of them stood out to me. That was the group I'm currently collaborating in, which is LABSOL, the open source software laboratory. And I always seen it like as a new opportunity for students and people to reach out and get themselves involved into open source software. So that's the first idea that we're going to cover today. And the second idea will be the tools that we use in our group to help us make the workflow a little bit better. So, as Philippe already told you, I'm José ASTRAIN. I am 24 years old. I studied in the Autonomous University of Zacatecas in computer engineering, and I've always been into technology and stuff, ripping things apart, knowing how they work, helping others to understand how everything else works, or when I can get the chance. And I've been collaborating with LABSOL and this community around 4 years now. So we've been through a lot of projects. We've been through a lot of talks and being able to help public and private sectors. So this webinar is based on the experience I have already had in the past 4 years, and how, well, I hope you like it. So the agenda for this webinar, first we'll be defining what an emerging community is and what it is in an open source, and how I see it in the open source community. And secondly, we will be looking at the context in which our local community has evolved, our local community being LABSOL. So this is going to be the second part. Third is going to be the benefits of forming and helping these groups, and how can they help students, how can they help public and private sector, between all your local community, and how it can help you to develop more tools to engage other people into open source. At last, we will cover the tools we use for the team and the importance of them, from the basic beginning of learning, teaching and learning how to use different Linux distros or how they work, and the different systems and services that we use to handle our workflow, and the other type of services that we can and tools that we have to see towards a different type of development for the future. And we will cover the future of these communities or the community that we're in, and how they can help open source and all the things that we already talked about. So if you Google what an emerging community is, you are going to see yourself with different government types of pages explaining that an emerging community is community that migrates to that country, and how they form little groups, and how they face diversity of culture, social, and linguistic. And basically, once I found that concept, because I kind of linked it to what the open source community is here in Mexico, in Zacatecas, mostly. We are people that are scattered around different, I don't know, in schools, in jobs, and everything. So once we get all together, that's like where this emerging community exists. So maybe you're in your local community and you don't get to see the different types of people that maybe are involved in the same things that you are. But once you get in touch with them, it's a lot easier to form a group and to start working on different projects. So that's the part of lack of established social networks, support system, community structures, and resources. Once in the beginning of all of this, we don't have anything that can relate to us except our own I'm sorry. Our own thoughts and the way that we do things. So emerging communities in open source software, free open source software, they may seem some far-fetched for some people in different local areas, or maybe you already have one. But the first part, or the main part, I would like to make emphasis on, is that students and teachers in universities need to be the emerging, the ones that make the first step towards making a community and making that community be a little bit bigger and engage young people or other students, and to become, well, this is the part that ready to be completed in this. To complete this community, we need to start forming them to become better professionals on sharing what we already know, sharing what open source software is all about, and basically preparing them to be better professionals and have better preparation. For the context in the university I went to, I had a couple of professors that were open source software inclined, and they taught us how to use and how to install distro and everything like that. But basically, we had a lot of setbacks because we didn't get to dive right into Linux and work with those and program maybe in different things, because we didn't have a community that would do it as well. I mean, some people just use their local machines, and they use it with their Windows, and they didn't want to use anything else. And the professors didn't care much about that. I mean, they started introducing us to it, but we didn't get into it as deeply as we can do it in a open source complete community. I had fellow students that all their student life worked with Windows or Mac OS, and once they switched or jumped into our community at LABSOL, they saw the easiest way to develop things and develop projects, just because it's way easier to do it. So LABSOL as an emerging community. The Open Source Software Laboratory is a group of students and professionals that develop work using free open source software, and we develop these projects for public, private, and educational sectors since 2012. With every new semester, new students get involved in this LABSOL community, and basically it helps us to be a nonstop new free open source software community and every semester. So students around Mexico and professors around Mexico usually use this platform as a jump for starting developing different projects. There in LABSOL, this is a part of the Council of Science and Technology here in Zacatecas, and the council is helpful enough to provide scholarships for the students. So that's a big income of students every semester, and we get different students from different states, and obviously that expands into a whole new community every place they return back. So talking about the projects that LABSOL develops, we see the four main areas that we do. It's web development, mobile applications, technological infrastructure, AI and big data. And this is a basic part of what the projects that we develop work on, and everything is open source, and all the collaborators, all the students, and all the professors help each other to work and develop in better projects, or they made to fit to any public or private or educational sector or application that they need. So in the last 8 years, we have been able to work on 412 projects, including scholarship needs for the council. I've been a part of the technological infrastructure that I'm going to be talking about, and basically this happens every semester, and every semester we get new students with new projects involved. So what's the benefit of a new local FOSS community in your local community? For students, we can start working on new technologies. Sometimes we don't see that in school or in the university because they're more inclined to have a preset workflow or things that they're going to teach you. So making the jump into the FOSS community is making the jump to a larger pool of knowledgement. It develops the skills of being self-taught. Once you start diving into open source, you can never stop. You jump from one thing to another, and basically you have to be searching for things online and learning from your errors and from your mistakes. The other thing is that with a well-structured local FOSS community, the work positioning for the future in private and public sectors is going to be bigger, because once you start developing these types of projects for them, they are going to be easier for people to contact you. And as well as you encounter teammates with different skill sets. So that's basically the beginning of starting to work in a team-based environment or collaborating in different types of things. For the public and private sector, for your local community, it's going to be exporting well-prepared professionals for future employment. I mean, if you already know the people that you worked with before, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to know the potential and know the benefit of having someone like that on your team. As well as for the public and private sector, they can get help and guidance to reduce technology costs using open source software. Indifference, or I put this example, a lot of places here that I've been witnessed firsthand, they usually just pop into anything that they already know, and they don't care about costs, and basically they're losing a lot of money because they're not open to the possibility of changing that, because they're not so technologically inclined. Once we get this local FOSS community going, it could help as a backup and as a guidance for those small and medium companies, businesses, to be able to use open source as their base. And for the global FOSS community, we get more people engaged into open source. We can see open source in small and medium businesses, not anymore in, we could work obviously in bigger projects with bigger organizations, but basically we start from small and then go to large. And with the right guidance, we could get more contributors for FOSS projects in the near future. So to be working on the tools we use, these are the basic tools that we have for our local community in LABSOL. We use OpenStack as our cloud infrastructure to develop or deploy different instances and stuff like that. GitLab to be able to control our project for our code for our projects, I'm sorry. And at last, we use Apache Ambari, which is a Hadoop data Apache Hadoop cluster management tool. So that helps us with data analysis and basically dive into that. So why do we provide these tools, and why just don't we use the tools that, I don't know, we download on everyone's laptop, and why do we have to have these tools out for our community? So in our workflow, students will arrive with basic to none perspective on how projects must be developed from start to finish. Basically, they know how to program, but they don't know how to work in a team, or maybe they don't know how to work with different OSs or different services to help their projects be developed in a more easier way. So the tools that we provide and that we teach usually once we start the semester, they can use them and they can see the different types of new technologies that they can implement into their projects. They have the control of what they implement, but we can give a little bit more guidance to them on how they can do it or which technology could be better. And second, we have control. Having control of these tools or these technologies like OpenStack helps our community to stay in touch and give them freedom to experiment and fail. This is basically just we can help the group comprehend the scope of projects in big organizations and how they handle their workflow for product development. This is a little bit towards the future regarding local FOSS communities, in which we are aiming towards new contributors to open source software projects. So for the beginning, the first tool that we use, and by far my favorite tool, is the OpenStack. OpenStack is an infrastructure as a service cloud platform that builds and manages public and private clouds. It's managed by OpenStack Foundation, and it uses different components that work between each other to form the core of OpenStack. The icons that you see in the bottom are, yes, the official mascots of OpenStack. Block storage. The Horizon is our dashboard, web dashboard that we can control OpenStack with. Glance is our image provider for different distros or different OSs. And Keystone is the identity service that we use to access OpenStack. We use it in LABSOL to deploy and control our own instances and virtual machines for current projects. Basically, once really compared on what you could do with AWS or Google Cloud Platform, OpenStack lets you do it, but with the benefit that you can deploy it on your own infrastructure. So you don't have to be messing around with like credit card information, or basically relying on which, if you're things in our projects. We use this tool to teach and demonstrate how you can use different OSs for different projects and how they handle different things, and to mount services to help us keep a steady workflow in LABSOL. Tools such as GitLab and stuff like that. So this is like the basic view of the OpenStack Horizon dashboard. So you can see the different instances we have, the virtual CPUs that we can use to deploy instances, the RAM in our system, the volumes. You can control security groups. You can make networks and open ports, have the control of basically everything you have control in AWS, like in AWS or Google Cloud, but with your own infrastructure. And so this is a really powerful tool to have once you get involved in the emerging community of your open source community. So you can basically give them anything or any platform that they want to use, and you can teach them how they work. And basically, I've seen that it's a really powerful tool to have for developers developers that use it have a really much easier way to jump onto a bigger scale project in other organizations. This is an example of the different instances that we have and how we use them. You can see that you can put different capacities on the instances or the virtual machines, like the CPUs that they handle, the disk storage that you're going to use, the RAM that your system is going to work with, and basically you can control everything. Second, we have our GitLab repository that's deployed there in OpenStack. It's an open source code repository and helps us with the collaboration with the development platform. We use it to store and control the code for our projects. We use our own GitLab because we have the control of having the different projects taken care of and prepare for a catastrophe if something bad happens, right? We help collaborators to start using version control systems for their code. That's other things that we've seen in the past years, that once we get out of school, or that the workflow that we handle when we were students, we don't usually use a version control system. So having this tool available for the students that in our local community really helps us a lot on checking their code, helping them with different types of problems that they may encounter. And basically, we keep the community going with this tool and how it helps us. This is the dashboard that you're going to see if you enter our GitLab, and the projects all the projects that the students make, they put into their into our GitLab, and then basically we can see them and we can have control of them. And at last, we have what is Apache Ambari. It's a management control platform to provision, monitor, and secure our Apache Hadoop cluster and its components. Basically, what Apache Ambari does is just that, just controls our Hadoop cluster, which contains Hadoop data file systems, MapReduce, Apache Hive, Apache Pig, Apache Spark, and our Zeppelin notebook that we use to have these tools available for different data analysis projects. This tool in particular, we use it, we have it to be ready for anyone that can work, that wants to work in a data science project. And we use our local infrastructure which is deployed in, so it could help get a lot of analyzing data sets a lot quicker. Different types of tools that the Hadoop components cover can make you make different types of queries, or analyzing different types of things, what your data set, what you need from your data sets, right? We get collaborators started into data analysis once we start working with data sets. But as I mentioned, that's a part of the near future. We explore these the tools that Apache Ambari manages, and we learn how to use them and on how their algorithms are written and how we can benefit from all these tools. And basically, we use our own hardware to benefit data analysis applications, as I already mentioned. So that's the dashboard you're going to see once you deployed your Apache Ambari. As you can see in the left zone, those are the services that are deployed with the service, with Ambari. As you can see, you have your Hadoop data file system, where you can store your, basically is where you can store your data sets. Yarn, MapReduce, Hive to make SQL queries. We have other things like Ambari metrics, where you can control your data nodes and how they're going to be managed. And Spark to be able to use this Apache Spark with different programming languages such as Python or R or different things. The Zeppelin notebook, which contains our basic structure of how we deploy or use these tools to analyze data sets, and how we can get back information on graphics and stuff like that. That's our Zeppelin dashboard. And as you can see, you can deploy, make data sets analyze using Spark. With R, you can make tutorials on how you do things, and you can basically have like a work notebook for each one of the persons involved in your data analysis project. So at last, what can we achieve in the future with these open source communities? We can make more prepared developers at young ages. your community doesn't have to be open to or closed. I'm sorry, it doesn't have to be closed to people in universities. As soon as you start working with kids and getting them into how computers work, you can teach them how to use different OSs and basically have a mindset to prepare more people. As I mentioned already, we are working to have committers in open source projects, more committers in open source projects. Basically, this helps us in places where it's not developed, like in Latin America. The committers are really small, so we can use these types of communities to engage them and help them understand the workflow for bigger open source projects. And public and private sectors migrate to FOSS as a solution. That's what we can achieve if we can make small projects with public and private sectors or educational sectors in your local community, and in a place that we can be able to control or make them understand that it's a better choice regarding security and usability. We can migrate these sectors to a FOSS solution. So that's all for my talk. I hope you liked it, and I'm looking forward to the questions. Philippe?
Hello, thank you very much, Jose. Well, for the moment, there is no questions. Just let me check again. There is no question. I tried that. Maybe Manuel Aro ask you maybe some questions, but for the moment, there is no question inside. This, I don't know if you want to add something or to say something more on this topic. Hello.
Hello, Philippe. Can you hear me?
Do you hear me? Yes. Hello. Hello, hello. Hello.
No. Okay, so we'll wait a couple of seconds so that Philippe can come back and see the questions that you guys have.
Hello. Do you hear me right now?
Okay, I hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I didn't know what's happened. I was just checking if there is any question. So in the Telegram group, there is no question for the moment. I don't know if you want to add something in your presentation of today's presentation.
Well, a little reflection on how this has helped me as a perfectionist. Being able to be in these types of communities opens a lot of doors for you, especially if you are committed to helping other people. We have done a lot of courses over the last years, and regarding different types of open source projects or programming courses, and basically having a community like this is going to boost up the way that you perceive and you can help the world. So I really encourage to everyone listening to maybe get together with a couple of friends that are into open source and start talking about developing these types of communities where they live and where they're at.
Okay, and which community or which events, books do you recommend for the people that are listening right now and could be interesting for them? Or which person do you need to follow on Twitter or on different social networks right now to achieve this?
Well, you can achieve this by following, obviously, Open Expo Europe. I I've heard of this before, and these types of expos. But once you get into their Telegram or their website, I mean, I don't know, like getting interested in the discuss that there is internally with these organizations like Genome or Apache Foundation, and seeing how their workflow is. Basically, just try to follow every type of open source project. So that's the way that you can see what tools you need to prepare or what skill sets you need to have to be able to start a career in open source.
And is open source encouraged in computer science careers in Mexico, in Zacatecas, or in different countries?
Yes, we as I mentioned, some professors in the university here in Zacatecas really encourage us to use open source software. They make it a little bit to where it's optional to use it. So most of my school friends and the guys there, well, they don't usually use it because they're used to being able to work and game on their computers and stuff like that. So we are making we are trying to make a big leap with this open source community like LABSOL, to being able to be inside of universities and being able to make them work with this community, and how they can use the open source, the free open source software as a change of what they usually do on their personal computers.
Thank you very much, Jose. And thank you very much to those of you who have followed us today. And if you liked it, do not hesitate to share, like, or subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Jose, to be here today with us.
Thank you, Philippe.